Welcome to Money Convos, where we discuss personal finance and investment tips. We are committed to helping people create wealth and achieve financial freedom. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Clubhouse, and Facebook, and subscribe to our YouTube and podcast. All right then, let's head into today's conversation.
Bishop Edem, how are you?
I'm good, yourself?
I'm okay, I'm all right. Just as I gave you as I called you with the title, I realized that now I have to issue a disclaimer. If you've gone to ask some of your church members to listen and they hear us addressing you as bishop, please, we've not ordained him. He's not overhyping. He's a humble person. they give him the hype. So I beg you. The same way we see the average person, we call them director, boss, Oga. Please, make us just issue disclaimer.
If it's the same thing we apply.
Charlie, anyway, I see Dennis in the audience. Dennis has been truant for the last couple of weeks. So
yeah. I was going to say same. It's been a while.
He's been very, very stubborn. Very stubborn. Dennis, we are supposed to have weekly meetings. Dennis, no, they mind me. Every day.
Oh, Dennis, that's something we have to
make
know.
And remove. It started on Val's Day. Okay, it started on Val's Day.
On
Val's Day, Dennis didn't show up for Money Convos. Since Val's Day, Dennis hasn't been coming. So Dennis has to come and remove his mouth live on air.
Exactly.
Don't see me on the back end anywhere. I've said it live, so you to come and remove your mouth live.
Charlie.
Anyway. It's interesting, man. I just thinking about this banter reminds me of when in December when we were able to have our in-person conversations, especially the last one. Man, that was a good one when our gentleman brought us. Our regal gentleman brought us some fried rice. We were chilling.
I know, right? I know.
Dennis, I think we need to post that picture. Use that picture as a. I was going to say the cover for the Twitter, but maybe it will be too much. We have to post it somewhere on Instagram or something. Or then what do you think?
It has to be on Instagram.
Let people see the Money Convo squad doing things. More people were there. Oh, Charlie. Anyway,
I know, right?
Anyway, go be. We'll figure out in some months or years to come. We'll figure out how we can make it like that. Okay, so today's conversation, right? Let me see. This conversation. I've seriously prepared speech because this matter really touched my heart. All right.
It touched your heart.
It touched my heart. It touched my heart. Enter my dodom. All right, because so. It comes. This topic comes back. Reminds me of why we formed Money Convos, and I wish Mimi would come up here. I'll pause that part and to see if Mimi would have arrived at home by then. Let's see. So some weeks ago, Adam, I was talking to you, and you mentioned Dave Ramsey and how you were listening to Dave Ramsey. Yeah. By that time, you were like 10 episodes in, and those were the full episodes, right? The 2-hour episodes.
Yeah.
Charlie. Yeah. Charlie, that means 20 solid hours of listening to the Dave Ramsey show and his philosophy. This part is important because some of the themes that are coming up in this conversation, and what are we talking about? When you are seeking financial advice, and applicable to anything else, right? But who is worth listening to? Who should you listen to? And Mimi had mentioned Dave Ramsey some time back, every now and then. Then in December, when I was coming to Ghana, I was like, okay, I put it in my podcast list, but I've never really listened to it. So I had to download plenty before. Okay. When I come to Ghana, then this thing, Ghana data is expensive. Well, I have free Wi-Fi or unlimited data. Let me download. So I downloaded plenty. So on the flight back in fact, even before my trip, even before I made the trip, because I started the downloads like days or weeks ahead. Then I started listening. I was like, actually, this man is talking sense. He's talking sense.
Yeah.
Fast forward, and I brought it up a couple of times. And then fast forward to I heard this article, another person that we listen to, in fact, we watch his show, Ramit Sethi. I saw somebody reacting to a video of him reacting to the Ramsey, Kevin O'Leary, and Robert Kiyosaki. I was like, So I tracked down the original one and I shared it with them, and that's what we are like. Okay, these are two people we like in the personal finance space, and one is bashing the other. So it's worth listening to it and trying to figure out where is either right, where is either wrong, and what are the lessons. How do we know who to listen to and when to listen to the person? You get me? So by way of introduction, that's what we are thinking. Like when you start hearing different people that you thought, oh, these people are all gurus or experts, and then they have opposing views on things. Right? What do you do? So Adam, how about you? Any initial thoughts or reactions from the concept of like being discerning? We'll get into the specific content in a bit, but from how to know who to listen to. Any thoughts?
Yeah, Eligem, like you were saying, these are two professionals that we listen to, and we have actually gleaned a lot of important lessons from and what have you. So where there are conflicting or opposing ideas, who do we listen to? I think it is something that's going to happen. Even on this, on our Money Convo shows, we always, even though we are generally like-minded, there are some specifics or some particular issues that we stand on different points on. Sometimes maybe it's just about the how, or maybe fundamentally there have been some slight text under which advice is given, or decision, some recommendations are made so that we situate it within the context in which we are in, and where we think that maybe things are different, we should be able to look through and see, oh, which one do we resonate with? Does it resonate with us? And then go with it. I think basically that is where my initial thoughts on this. Yeah.
That's a vibe. Okay. Great. So without much ado, we will get into it. Oh wait, I see Mimi here. Mimi, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing yourself?
Oh, I'm great. I'm good. Yeah. Yeah, Mimi, I'm curious. Were you able to watch the video that we sent that we'll be talking about today?
Yeah. I watched it. Thanks, Papa. You reminded me. So.
Wonderful. Okay, so we'll come and take initial reactions in a moment. Okay, but yeah, I was going to say something as part of my introduction, but I wanted to make sure you were on mic before I said it. Just thinking through, like who do you take advice from? Right, it reminds me of how we joined forces to do this money convos more structuredly. Right, Mimi already had the Money Convos brand and the club started, and we used to just pop into each other's rooms back on what's it called, Clubhouse. Then I think it was a Friday afternoon. I think it must have been a Friday afternoon somewhere in April 2021, and I mentioned to Mimi, isn't it just annoying or some type of way that when people hear about finance advice, it's from banks or investment houses who have the motive of selling them financial instruments or some product or service. That way, how do you know if what they are telling you is real? So then imagine if we could offer people information or financial literacy without any strings attached. Hence, this non-profit agenda of Money Convos, where we are giving people perspectives, information about money, and you don't have to worry about there's an advert under it that we are trying to sell something to you, or we are doing some shakara, or we want it to be clear. Let people know that we have your best interest at heart. And that gets me to thinking a lot of these finance gurus or finance experts, people that we go to listen for advice on personal finance, they may have different motives. Different people have different motives. But I want to hope that for the best of them, the purest intention is to put the word out there for people to live better lives. All right. So the question is, how do we have the discernment? We as audience have the discernment to know who is the right person to listen to and when should we listen to them. All right. And when I came across this video, I thought it was the best opportunity to see two people going at it, or one person going at other people, so that we can pick up some things from how the person did the critique, for us to see how do we also critique people. What do we hear? What do we listen to actively? How do we process it when we listen to it? What questions should we ask? What should raise red flags, and then general tips. So that's what we are going to be talking about. So briefly, let me just ask for quick reactions from people up here. And Sarah, I see in the audience. I'm bringing you up. If you're in a position, please do join us up here. So just quick reactions after watching the video. Dennis, are you there?
Yes, boss, I'm here.
Dennis, you will come back and you remove your mouth about your true assistance vows day. But after watching the video, any first thoughts?
Yeah, I think the video was really good. I have mixed feelings about it though, but the video, I mean, it opens your eyes to some of these things you don't see behind the screen. So, for instance, he spoke about Dave. I didn't even know Dave was a millionaire. If someone like Kevin O'Leary, I mean, some comments they've been making in the past, I think Ramit spoke from the perspective of someone who struggled from the bottom to the top and then expressed his frustration. You could sense the frustration in his voice. And I think he has had it in him for a while to speak about this thing. And then, so there were a lot of emotions attached. Overall, the video was good. And I think I'm looking forward to the discussion about it.
Right, that's interesting. Good to see good to see it from how you see it. Let's see. Oh, Adam keeps dropping. Adam, I'll bring you up again if you are available to speak. Do join us. Mimi, how about you? Any initial thoughts? Okay, I lost Mimi too. Okay, Adam is back. Adam, are you there? Hello, Adam. If you are speaking, you're muted.
Hello, Elikem. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay.
So yeah,
my
initial thoughts from.
a bit.
No problem. So initial thoughts from the video.
Yeah. Just like Dennis was saying. Well, it was a bit interesting for me. Like I said earlier, these are two people we have followed their content. I mean, at least for Ramit, I followed him earlier because of the reviews we had to do, and then subsequently when Dave's name came up in our a number of our shows, I went to look for him, and then also like I told you the last time, I binge listened. So it felt a bit strange that one person went openly up against the other one in the manner in which he went. That was for me what was a bit off. There were some points, yes, if you listen to, it's just like two professionals disagreeing on anything. They would both lay their, how do they call it? Their reasons or their logic behind why they think something should be one way. So obviously Ramit came to the table with some good points about the fact that some of the recommendations that Dave has been making should be situated, like you should look at it like, look, these are things that could have worked in the 70s or in the 80s, but now looking at the current circumstances, they would not work. So something like that, yes, those kind of things do happen where circumstances change. So recommendations that were otherwise made in the past cannot be made now. So yeah, he had some kind of valid points. Generally, I should say some points, but probably what was a bit off for me was as though he had taken him to the slaughter to to just deal with him. That's for me was my initial reaction, or that would be my initial reactions to to the video. Yeah.
Gotcha. So that's your initial reaction. Mainly the way he went about it. So for me, I have a different perspective from how Dennis saw it. I think I was disappointed. I ain't gonna lie. I was quite disappointed in Ramit. I feel like he went into this thing not having done his homework. And what do I mean by not having done his homework? There are certain things that he didn't say, that he said in it, that if he has listened, if he knows about Dave Ramsey's philosophy, if he's listened to more of his content, especially the long form of his content, he will know that he does not say those things. And we'll get into some of these things. But an example is rent. He says Dave doesn't want you to rent. Dave says rent. Rent is not a bad thing. If you are not ready to buy a house, rent. And also he talks about, when he talks about housing costs, and this is another point of disappointment, which is misrepresentation. If he said housing costs, it's not just your if you buy a house, even if it's rent, your housing should be less than, he said 28%, but Dave keeps saying on his show it's 25% and below. All right. It's these misrepresentations. When you say, oh, this person said this, but the person clearly didn't say it. In fact, I took some screenshots of like when he goes to bring some quotes about or some information about Dave, and he says Dave went bankrupt, so why should you trust him? But again, misrepresentation. He's telling us about his lessons after bankruptcy, the mistakes that he took that got him into that position, and his lessons of getting out of it to become a multi-millionaire. When you look on the internet, some versions are saying $200 million in net worth. I'm like, all this is misrepresentation. Because if you say, oh, don't listen to somebody because they went bankrupt, then fine. It's fair. But are you getting into the weeds? But anyway, basically, I was quite disappointed. But there are still some lessons to be learned in here. If I was to score it, I'll say 30% because the bulk of the work there now. I'll post. Not sure how to do a reply to this, but in case people want to go watch that video, Dennis, if you can do a reply with the link to the video to this chat, it is space so that people can get to see it, and also in our YouTube description or something, like it can come up so that people see it. Okay, so let's get into the meat of the matter. We can take it blow by blow. He came for Ramit came for Dave Ramsey. He came for Kiyosaki, Robert Kiyosaki. That's Rich Dad Poor Dad, and then he also came for Kevin O'Leary. Robert Kiyosaki, I won't get too much into it, but I think, but the one that we'll get a lot into is his concerns with Dave Ramsey, and for those ones, because I feel like I've done my homework on this. I know the perspective Dave is bringing on. In fact, some of the things that he was saying, I went into my Excel and I did some serious modeling and tried to see what other people are saying and how the math works out, right? And I'm like, I'm looking at these numbers and, I feel like I've done some homework. Again, we may also be wrong, right? We may also get it wrong every now and then, like Adam was saying. So first thing he said his problem was with Dave is, and I think this will be a softball. Ramit says Dave, for people in the US context, if you have a retirement nest egg, that means an amount of money. You say, okay, when I'm retiring, I want $1 million, right? So your nest egg is, let's say, whatever amount. If you can withdraw 8% of that amount every year, and you won't run out of money until you die. That's what Dave is saying. But the rule of thumb in the US and in the financial space is use 4%. All right, because you don't want to take too much. You just want to be chopping off the profit. You withdraw just out of the interest that has been accrued or the gains on the investment. You also adjust for inflation so that you can still keep the actual amount growing. And then also, I'm even taking it further. Like, make sure that your withdrawals are also increasing. Like, if you are taking 10,000 in year one, when you are 60, you can't be taking that same 10,000 when you are 70, right? You want it to grow according to inflation because things will become more expensive. So that's the idea behind it. Now, Dave says 4% is too conservative. Ramit says 8% is too relaxed, and people run out of money. So as I was going through watching this video first, before I even look at my own analysis that I did, Ramit says that if you understand the math, you will know that the 8% doesn't work, and rather 4% will work. And I'm like, Ramit keeps referring to math. He says, he keeps saying the math, but he didn't really show us any math. The time he even showed a chart, he showed, well, that's a different thing. But like, he didn't show us any math. He didn't walk through the math of why 4% is better than 8%. He just kept railing at him. So as someone listening to see, okay, which of these perspectives should I take? Somebody's saying 8%, somebody's saying 4%. I didn't walk away from that thing that Ramit was saying with a reason why 4% is better than 8%. Yes, 4% will be better than 8% because it's a lower number, so chances are you leave more money in the account for it to grow more. Fine. But that 8% is not enough. His references were made to other people who've done the analysis, right? So I'm like, okay, if you say so, then do show working, right? I'm like, so I went to do some working, but before I even get to show working, I want to contrast, or no, actually, let me finish the show working point of view. I actually did the math, and I found somebody who was showed a certain number of times that if you invest, if you withdraw 8% and you have a lifespan of 30 years of retirement, so that means when you retire, if you retire at 60, you die at 90. Or if you retire at 65, you die at 95, right? How many times you will run out of money, whether you withdraw 4% or you withdraw 8%. I did my own calculations. I realized that, yes, 45% of the time, if you withdraw from if you withdraw 8%, 45% of the time, you will run out of money before you die. That means your account will go into negatives. So fine. That's the case. But then I'm like, 45%, there's still another 55%. But of course, we want a higher chance of getting it done. So what's the alternative? What's the 4%? And for the 4%, I'll circle back and then I'll show you what the number looks like. But another point that that Ramit was making, which I didn't quite get, is that he didn't understand Dave Ramsey's perspective when he was making this point. And I want to, I'll share a video to the WhatsApp group right now so that Dennis, you can just post it for me. If anybody wants to know why Dave says that's his perspective. And his whole mindset is he wants people to have some level of peace. If they tell you can only withdraw 4% versus you can actually withdraw 8%, right? You have some hope. But if you're only going to withdraw 4%, you think that's hurdle. That means you need twice the amount of money by the time you retire. That's way more effort. All right. And his math, which some people disagree with, is he says S&P 500 did 12% on the average. Inflation, assume you withdraw inflation. No, assume you withdraw 8%. That leaves you with 4%. That means the money is still growing. And historically, US inflation has been pretty low on the average. So he's saying there's enough money. And beyond just the math, he's saying that it's about people having peace. He wants people to have peace. So then it becomes a question, if you understand that philosophy, are you is it going to motivate you to keep pursuing the dream? Or if you feel like 4%, that means you need way more money, so you've lost hope, then you don't put money in at all. Which is it, right? It leaves an open question. On this particular issue, I'm like, it could go either way. But yeah, these are some thoughts. I'll circle back with my version of the numbers in a few moments. But yeah, Adam, what do you think after hearing this one?
Hello, Elikem. Yeah, I think when he also made mention of the 4%, 8% thing, honestly, I was a bit lost at that time. But at least it looks like you looking at the modeling and all of that, and then making the explanations that you have done now, I think I get where Davis has been coming from. Like you said, it's perspectives. You get it. And I didn't see what the whole fuss was about going at Dave because of some 4% or 8%. You get it. And so for me, I think that whether you are working with the 4% or you're working with the 8%, overall, what's like you were saying for Dave, he's talking about people having some peace of mind also, which you can't really quantify, or no math can do that calculation for you. Do you get it? I don't know. Some variables when it comes to personal finance, for me, that is one of the things that comes up that, it's personalized. So some people will rate other things more than others. So sometimes if you reduce it too much to the calculations, you miss out on some important variables which are not really quantifiable. And on that score, it looks like Ramit was just going at it. But like you said, he didn't really put forward any counter calculations for us to see that, okay, if you do 8%, you are worse off than if you do 4%. You get it? So for me, all this back and forth about whether it's 4%, 8%, maybe I might just fall in 6% or 5%. I don't know. So that's for me at that point in time. What's given all the variables in terms of peace of mind? I want this amount of money to be able to withdraw every month or every quarter or everything. I think people should be able to make those decisions. There are rules of thumb. So obviously plus or minus might not hurt in any way. Yeah.
Great. So you just go within the middle, because you're not seeing the evidence. That's a good one. So yeah, I was doing some calculations just before we started. I hadn't finished. That's why I wanted to take a quick minute. And I completed the thing, and now I get it. So I built a model that said, okay, I'm looking at different scenarios, starting from as far back as I can get S&P 500 data, which the return I got is starting from 1928 up until 2023. But we are looking at 30-year periods, right? So the last 30-year period that we can start from is 1994. That will end. That means your 30 years will end at 2023. And what I did is all your money is invested in S&P 500, for example. And I know we are in Ghana, and the kind of, why are we saying this? But just use it as a proxy for wherever you invest. If you are thinking of Ghana Stock Exchange or some blend of Ghana Stock Exchange, and right now I'm looking at Seram and Mimi, I know that they'll be talking about still S&P 500 can still get in the mix. You know what I mean? Anyway, so back to the S&P. So what are you investing in? You are investing in the S&P 500, and you are withdrawing, let's say, 8% of your starting amount. Let's assume you are starting with $1 million, and you have two options: withdraw 8% or withdraw 4%. I adjust it every year by the real inflation, the inflation rate for each year. So I started from somebody who retires in 1928 for 8 years, for 30 years. Their money grows, they withdraw some, and then they go on to the next year, and the inflation affects it, so their costs go up. I did that for all those years, and I got, this is how many years of data? 67 years, up from 1928 to 1994, those periods, right? And I found the question here that Ramit is asking is, will you run out of money? Dave says no if you go with 8, but Ramit says you will run out of money. So how do we find out? In all my calculations, I realized that it was only those people who started in 1929. If they withdrew 4% of their money, by the time the 30-year hits, they would have run out of money. That's if you go with 4%. So the success rate with 4% is very high. But if you withdraw more, that's the 8%, the success rate drops. Earlier I said 45%. Yes, your success rate will drop to just 55%. That means 45% of the time you will go broke. So the numbers do back up the people, or per my calculations, or back testing it.
On second thought, I'm just trying to probe to find out under what circumstances would Dave Ramsey be right. The first data is saying that no, he's 8%, you would run out of money, but he says it won't. So I looked at my model again, and I realized that the period after 1975 is actually more favorable than the period before 1975. So if I look at scenarios under which people start their 30-year retirement from 1975 and onwards, every year, different people are starting their 30-year retirement, you'd realize that it's only in one case that they would lose their nest egg by withdrawing the bigger amount of 8% from their account. You would observe that time only happens in the year 1977. That's people who start their retirement in 1977. They would run out of money by the 25th year or so. So this just goes to tell me that perhaps Dave is using more recent data. Maybe there's something around the 1975. Maybe the market's changed. That's making him say that this withdrawal of 8% is good enough, and you don't have to be so conservative to go with 4% withdrawal rate. Also, probing further, what were the returns on the S&P 500? And realize that in the period before 1975, that's from 1928 to 1974, the annual return on the S&P, including dividends, was 7.7%. But looking at periods from 1975 to 2023, the annual return on average is 12.0%. So perhaps Dave is onto something. Maybe he's considering more recent market times, that's like from 1975, to make his assumption, whereas other people who are more conservative with the 4% are going with the entire S&P 500 period that data is available. That's from 1928 till now, 2023. So this will give some thoughts to people to think about what should you go with. Which of these pieces of information would you want to go with to determine? So I guess on this topic is kind of split. Depending on how you look at it, you can choose to go with just what Dave is saying, or what Ramit and other people are saying, and perhaps even go with what Adam is saying. Just go somewhere in the middle. It all depends. But this would be an interesting conversation that perhaps in a later conversation, people can probe. But what we've done is we have uploaded the model that I built to allow people to critique it. This is my simplified way of assessing it, back testing. The historical returns are no indication of the future returns. Again, talk to somebody who look at your personal situation before you make this determination. But we leave it there for public scrutiny. Go on our link tree, that is, and you find a link tree on our Twitter or any social media profile. Just search for Money Convos GH, and we'll provide a link to somewhere that you can go and download the file to tweak it around yourself and play around with it to see for yourself.
It backs up the people who are going with 4%. The lesson here for me is work the math. And of course, not everyone will have a chance to work the math. But when you are listening to somebody, listen to somebody who will explain it to you properly. If they don't even explain it to you properly, they will do their calculations and try to walk you through it, or better still, point you in the right direction. And as I've said this, then it's try and prompt me. Let's get this model out there. Let's put it on our link tree or something, such that people can download it and vet it, so that I'll be doing as I say, such that I'm saying something and I want people to verify it, and people can just take a look at this model later. We'll post it so that you can verify if you see anything bogus in there. You can correct us, right? But the whole idea is this: you hear somebody say something, question, confirm, check if it's making sense, before you move on. So on this point, I guess I would say 1 for Ramit, right? Ramit 1, Dave 0. All right, them. How do you see the score? All right.
If that's what the data is saying there, I mean, nowadays everything is about data. So what's the math saying?
Yeah, you have to show working, you have to show evidence. Yeah, Mimi, what are your thoughts on this?
Sorry, can you hear me? Someone has taken my light.
Oh,
okay.
Sorry.
I didn't want to mention names. Anyway,
that makes 2 of us.
Yeah, so I mean, being someone that has worked in the space, I think when it comes to your retirement drawdown rate, it's always best to be conservative, because if you look at I don't know what was the average rate for the S&P you calculated over the years.
Is it 10.1? Just a quick second. Let me go there.
Okay, great. Great.
Yeah.
So 10.1, there were low years. There were definitely low years. There were high years. What would happen is that we with the 12% calculation, he's being overly optimistic, and sometimes life happens. So for me, it's always better to go with the lower rate, be more conservative. You probably use, especially for retirement, use the worst case scenario. And then if anything comes to add to it, it will grow the principal, right? And 4% of a bigger amount will give you more eventually. So for me, that's what I'll prefer to go with than for you to be feeling free 12%, spending 8% based on the assumption that your returns make an average of 12%, and also taking into consideration that inflation will be eating part of that, amount. I'd rather go with a more conservative amount, which means that people would have to save more rather than tell somebody that you can draw down on based on it, and that makes it that means that you don't even, it won't encourage in these times. I think the past few years have seen a lot of difficult.
Okay, I think Mimi is having a bit of an issue, so we'll circle back. But yeah, what Mimi is saying is on the retirement space, if you are thinking about your retirement plan and you want to go more conservative, if you are conservative and you make more, in reality, that's some extra as a bonus for you, rather than to walk around feeling like, oh, you're doing enough. Meanwhile, last when you need it, you wouldn't have enough. So be more conservative. I gave Mimi the number 10.1 for S&P return. That's as of 2023. I just want to do a correct fact check. 2023, the 30-year return up until 2023 was 10.1%. But looking at from the inception of my data, the 96 years starting from 1928, the total return, which includes reinvesting your dividends, on the average is 9.86%. All right, just to make sure that I'm putting the right facts out there. Okay, so that was the first issue that that Ramit Sethi brought up. So I was saying that was a softball. Now let's get into another one. Keeping your housing cost below 28% of your gross income while paying for a 15-year mortgage. So in the US, a lot of people like to do 30-year mortgages. That means you pay your money over a longer time. Whereas Dave is saying that take less time, take 15 years rather than 30 years. In Ghana, I think the norm is more of 15 years. We don't have that long history, so the banks don't like to go all the way to 30. And Ramit is saying that if you make people pay, he's saying that the whole point he has against what Dave is saying is making people way more conservative, is making people have afford to spend only so little on their housing, and that means the kind of house that they can afford is small, and house prices are going up, and that's his concern. So let's look at the numbers, right? First, if we say keep your housing cost below 28%, all right, which Ramit said, but Dave says 25%. So I'd rather just go with 25%. Make the allegation even worse. 25%. Okay. I hope you are with me. So in this case, yeah, if you are doing 25% and your annual income is, let's say, 117,000, okay, $117,000. The house you can afford doing a 20% down payment will be worth 417,000, and every month you'll be making a payment of $2,447 a month. I may be saying some of these numbers in dollars, but we can simply convert some of these to cedis. The only difference is the interest rates. I'm using 8% interest rate. I know in Ghana interest rates are not at 8%, so that's where the math starts to go off. But it's not so much about the numbers. Remember, the conversation is about how do we assess these things? How do we analyze them? All right. So per what Dave is saying, if you Dave versus Ramit, right? If you go with 30 years, you'll be paying 2,400 a month for this house that's worth 417,000. And that would be your monthly payments will be exactly 25% of your income. That's cool. But Dave is saying rather do it in 15 years. Do it in 15 years so that way you would be you'll be paying a higher amount every month, but you get out of debt faster. Remember, Dave's philosophy is all about people should get out of debt. And I get it, as I've been in the US for a while. Everything runs on credit. So many people are living lives that they can't afford. The key thing is get out of debt so that you can get to keep enough of your money. So let's compare these numbers. If you go with Dave's way, you'll be paying 3,100 every month. But if you go with Ramit's way, which is the conventional wisdom, you'll be going with 2,400. That's just on the time, all right? Meaning you will spend an extra $740 a month. And Ramit is saying this is too expensive. But let's not forget what's happening on the back end. On the back end, you get to pay off your debt early. What's the benefit of paying off your debt early? There's less interest. Because every month, once you keep the bank's money, they will ask for interest on their money. So imagine you are keeping the bank's money for an extra 15 years longer. You'll be paying interest for more months, for 15 years more. Also, as you stretch the principal over 30 years rather than 15 years, that means you hold that, you pay less of that principal every month. You know, when you make your mortgage payments every month, part goes to interest, another part goes to principal. The reason why if you go with a longer mortgage, 30-year mortgage, you will pay less money than somebody who goes to 15 years mortgage is because that principal part, they spread it over 30 years rather than 15 years. So every month you can pay less of the principal. So that means, yes, on the front end, you are making smaller amounts, but you need to ask yourself, when the show is over, how much have you paid to the bank? And when I do this comparison, by going an extra 30 years with the calculations I did, a house worth 417,000, 20% down payments, that means your loan principal is around 333,000. The extra payment you make by going the 30 years is $300,000. That's money you are giving to the bank. That's just the numbers, okay? You are giving that money to the bank. Would you prefer to keep that money or not? All right. And then taking it further, yes, Ramesh will say, well, you won't get a good house right now. It raises a question of affordability. That's where Dave would say, spend less. If you take your monthly budget, spend 25% or less on your housing, whether it be renting or mortgage on your own house. There is such a thing as you can't afford something. If you are looking for a hotel to sleep at night, a basic hotel will be 50, let's say 200 cedis. Will you go to Kempinski to pay close to 5,000 per night? No, it depends on what you can afford, right? And Dave's whole point is a lot of people are living certain lives that they think they can afford certain things. But if your rent is 38%, that's close to 40%. Either rent or your home cost is close to 40% of your income. That means you have 60% to cover other things. There's bills, there's school fees, there's childcare expenses, there's food, there's transportation. If you've borrowed a car, there are so many other things. So why don't you rather spend less on this so that you can cover other things and still save? Also, if you're having to spend so much on this, maybe on a house, maybe you have to ask yourself, maybe the house is too expensive for you. All right. I'll pause here because I think I've spoken a bit much. I have some more numbers that I want to use to back up this case, but let's hear someone else's take on this point. Adam, what do you think?
Hello, welcome. With obvious, I think with this one I will go with Ramsey. Obviously, as for me, you know me already. When it comes to debt, I'm debt averse. So anything to do to quickly pay it off is something I would definitely go with. And even like you were saying, by the time you would have done a 30-year mortgage, Charlie, the price you would have paid for the house, I don't know whether it's worth it. Especially in our context here in Ghana, dear, it might even be worse if you even had that very long tenure. Even if you should have a 20-year, I'm sure by the time you work the numbers, you would see that the values they are getting won't really make that much sense. So anything to pay it off quickly. And even I know with listening to some of the episodes, it even encourages people, if you could actually pay it off, if it's possible to even pay it off earlier than even the 15 years, all the better. So that interest component, as you were talking about, you reduce it, because the longer you keep paying, then like you're saying, the more interest you are going to be paying on the loan, which is money you could have used for other things in your life that you are committing to just one asset class. And then sometimes too, the housing market is very funny. You can get to a point where, yes, you've paid off all this thing, but then the house is not worth as much as you would have thought. And even like we're talking about other housing costs that keep coming up later. Maybe you finish paying for the house, but you have so many repairs you would have to do, and you have paid so much in interest. And most of the time, these very long tenure mortgages means that by the time you would have finished paying it, you are just about hitting retirement or you are in retirement. And that would have meant that you spent almost all your life. And I honestly don't think it's a very good thing to do.
Yeah, spend almost your entire working life paying off the house. That's quite. It's like you're slave to your house. Last weekend, I was just having a conversation with someone about how long it takes people to build houses in Ghana. And I guess 30 years may be a bit long for Ghana. Maybe some 5-10 years. That's when people get theirs done. I know my mom, from my mom's house, from when she bought the land till eventually she was ready to move in. I think it was about 8 years. So some people can do it in way less time. Some people can do it way more time. But yeah, the point Adam raised an issue, a point, which is when we talk about personal finance, right? People tend to forget about the personal part of personal finance, and it's a major part about psychology, about what you are comfortable with. Adam is not comfortable with debt. He would like to get out of it quickly. Like if it's about debt, taking a mortgage or not, like they would say, yeah, get a mortgage if you can afford it, but pay it off real quick, because he doesn't want you to have debt. At least with that, it has a certain amount of collateral in terms of the house. But like Adam said, the value of the house can go down, can be unrealistic, can go down. Let's see. I know some people who in 2020, someone wanted to sell their house for $450,000 in Chado. Big house, 2 living rooms, all the works. They eventually sold it for a little over half of what they were asking for. That just goes to tell you, some of these things you can't guarantee. What if the time you want to get out is when the market has a downturn? So you may want to err on the side of caution and be a bit safer. Dave preaches peace and all that, right? So let me tackle some of the things that Ramit said. I first walked through the numbers comparing these two options. I was disappointed in Ramit when he mentioned when he said that house prices have gone up when wages haven't gone up. And yes, he was talking about percentage change, but again, this is about the analysis that you need to look at. Just if you take two things, you don't know how much either of them is worth, A and B. You don't know the value of A, or you don't know the value of B. But someone is telling you that the value of A is going up way more than the value of of B, right? Yes, you'd like them to grow at the same rate. That would be nice. But what if A is already so small? A is maybe worth just 1,000 and is growing by 10%, but B is 10,000 and is growing at just 2%. What am I saying? Compare apples with apples, not apples with oranges. So he showed a chart to back up his point, but his chart was talking about growth rates. Meanwhile, we should really be thinking about the absolute value of these items. What has the median home price been? What has the median income of the average of in the US been, right? So I actually looked up some of these numbers. And again, then let's work towards, like we are saying, is we need to show working. So let's see how we can provide this information later in a meaningful way. The median US price of houses in the US has grown from, let's say, in 2010, it's grown from 222,000 to 2015, 289,000, 2020, 329,000 to 2023, 417,000, right? You hear that? Oh, wow, it's grown. Okay, great. Now, I want to, Ramit is saying that it's unrealistic for you to think people can afford these houses. Remember that the figure I gave is median. Median means it's in the middle. That means, statistically speaking, half of the houses cost more than this number I'm mentioning. Let's focus on, let's say, 417,000 as of 2023. Half cost more than 417,000. Half cost less than 417,000. Okay, great. Going back to what Dave says about affordability. For someone to be able to afford such a house on a 15-year mortgage, they should be earning $153,000. Again, that is like 10%, top 10% income earners in the US. So not many people can do that. However, there's another way a lot of people can do that. If you are applying for the mortgage as a couple, that means you can combine two people's incomes. So that instead of you, one person come up with 153,000 in annual income, both of you, if you are equally earning 76,000 a year, boom, you can join forces. Again, these are US numbers we are talking about, and I'm talking to a predominantly Ghanaian audience. But what does that tell you? It's about affordability. So someone could even say this may be a benefit of getting married. Maybe Adam hasn't bought his house because he's waiting to get married and combine income to afford a better mortgage. So maybe that's something at stake, right? But this is how you should be crunching the numbers. Oh, okay, so he's saying I can afford less, but ask yourself, what will it take for me to afford more? Of course, first thing, make more money, earn more income. Fine. Another option is, how can you bring more income into the family? You marry someone who also has some income. If you have that path that you're thinking about, right? So once you start thinking about it that way, then you realize that, okay, some of these things are possible. It's not outrageous, okay? And these numbers that I gave when I did a comparison between the 30-year and the 15-year mortgage was actually based on the median household income. And it's kind of close to it's a little bit more than the US average annual salary, which is, one source puts it at 59,000. It will work perfectly for those who are taking the 30-year mortgage, but as an individual. But if you, or not as an individual, as a couple, but if you want to go above average, then make more money than the average, right? That's the point I'm trying to make. So yeah, that's one point. Another thing that he said is it's unrealistic to pay off your house so early. And this is where, again, I say I wish people would listen to long form of the episodes. The Dave Ramsey show goes for like 2 hours every day. If you can listen 20 minutes at a time every now and then, that's great. You get some history. And then binge 10 episodes, 20 hours of listening to this. And every now and then they bring people to the debt-free stage. And a lot of people, even though they plan to pay off their house in 15 years, some of them, on the average, many people, well, why am I saying average and many people? Let me not confuse you. On the average, some people, snap. I'm really trying to choose my words well. I don't want a reaction video against me. Pardon me. There are many people who are able to pay off their homes in 7-8 years, even though they had planned to do it in 15. What does that tell you? What's the difference between these people and the people who want to wait 30 years? I think the key word is discipline. Another key word is budgets. Just yesterday, I'll tell you a story on a different topic, retirement. I was having a conversation with someone, and I'm in a group with him. He's a white man in the US, and he's 54, and he said he had wanted to retire at 54, but along the line he adopted a child, so he had to push back his retirement plans. And he's going to retire in 4 years. He had just had a conversation with his financial planner and everything is set, so he'll retire early at age 58. In US, retirement age is, I think, 64 it's 62, or you know what? Let me just do a quick fact check. Retirement for the retirement age in US, it is some people say 66. Oh yeah, Social Security Administration says it's 66, and some people are saying 67. Anyway, so it's well above what he is trying to retire at. He's saying 58. So it's impressive. Those extra years could make him some more money. So I was asked, and he when he told me how much he has in his nest egg, like his retirement account, total retirement account, it's in the millions. This man drives a Subaru, okay, a very conservative car, not a luxury car. He's not had any fancy jobs. In fact, when he was describing his job, he said, "Oh, the manager." So he's not even at manager level. So I was like, "Wow, you are way better off than most people." He's like, "Yeah," and then he used some very choice words that I don't want to use, but basically, people are not diligent. And he compared himself with some family members of his who didn't do same. And all he said is he always maxed out his 401k, that's his retirement account, what the government would allow you to deduct before taxes. That's what he did. Consistently. As his income grew, the percentage remained the same. So the amount would grow. As your income is growing, make sure that you're always maxing out. And that's what he did. Nothing extraordinary. Yeah, it wasn't easy. It required some discipline. And that for him meant at various times it was putting away maybe 20% of your income. He wasn't driving any flashy cars. He wasn't doing anything fancy. But some people want to ball today, hoping that they retire well. So again, what's the key differentiator between you and the people who are doing some of these things? Discipline, getting on a budget, talking to investment friends so that they can assess your individual situation. You understand? So at this particular point, let me do a shameless plug for investment friends. Some of us don't know our numbers. We don't know what's going on, and we are following what people are saying just generally. No, you have to be able to delay gratification. You have to know your position to know how to chart a path to your position. And investment friend can help you towards that. So get on Instagram, follow at investment_friend. All right. Yeah. So again, Ramit is talking about how life has become harder, and this man is talking about things from the 70s. It wouldn't work. But excuses, especially for someone who's like, we all know these things. Like those of us who are here listening, I see people live in the audience. I'm pretty sure you're here because you pay more attention to some of these things and you compare the way some other people are living their lives. They are balling out every day, but they go broke before the month ends and they come and borrow from you. It takes some discipline. In the US, for example, some people want to live in New York. Yeah, you may be paid more, but you pay more in taxes. Your rent is way higher. But I would rather go and live in a place like Texas with lower taxes, lower cost of living. I'm going to be paying like $1,500 a month for rent. People in New York are paying $3,000, $4,000 for something similar, or having to shack up with roommates in tiny apartments just so that they can pay the same close to $2,000. Does it make sense? No. So you have choices, right? You have choices that you can make. But all this whining and complaining, no. I'm going on a rant and I know time is going fast. So I just run through a few other points. Like, again, listen to long form. He's saying Dave doesn't like rent. Dave actually on his show, Adam, this one confirmed for me. Does Dave say renting is bad?
Oh, no. He actually encourages it because it could be a means to an end. So it's always fine. Just that all the time, the same rule applies, the 25% of your housing cost. So whatever you are spending on your rent should not be more than 25%. Yeah.
Exactly. He encourages people, if you don't have enough money for a good down payment, rent. Renting is just for a season. That's what he keeps saying. Renting is just for a season. It doesn't mean you're a failure. So take your time, rent. But Ramit is saying he doesn't say that. If Ramit had watched more of his content, instead of short form, listen to whole episodes, he would have known that this is not what Dave stands for. So I found it quite distasteful. Really, people, I encourage you. Who should you listen to? They say somebody is a motivational speaker or somebody talks about something. In fact, even as Money Convos, don't listen to just one episode. Of course, get on YouTube, search for Money Convos. You find a whole bunch. We have what? Dennis, I think we are pushing more than 90 episodes. By the time when we hit 100, we need to celebrate, yeah? Go listen to a whole bunch of them. Listen and get some sense of consistency about what people are saying. In this day and age where there's social media and everybody is just 30 seconds, you want to see something, WhatsApp status 30 seconds, or Instagram Reels, if it's more than 2 minutes, Charlie, it's be long. You don't want to listen. Charlie, You need full context. You need to get a full perspective about what people are saying before you start listening to them. Okay, so that's a piece of advice to know who to listen to. Listen to long form so that you can see if they are making sense. All right. There's also, let me pause here. Mimi, I see you dropped off. Feel free to come up. Sayram, if you also watched the video, feel free to come up to share your perspective on this particular point. Dennis, are you there? Do you have any thoughts on this issue about rental? I know you saw it differently, but I'm curious to hear what you say.
I think so. I look at it from the perspective of Rami, and you know what he's been preaching already, that you should live a rich life. So any advice that someone gives you that doesn't give you the opportunity to experience your life, and even in the other examples you could feel it, the one about Kevin, the one about Robert Kiyosaki. I think there was something about not that you should not enjoy your coffee if you've not paid off your debt or something like that. So his whole thing was what they are saying is rubbish because one, you don't get the chance to experience life, and some of these advices that they are giving is outcoded. So I think for Rami, maybe it's because of the way he thinks. Live your rich life, but then still be financially disciplined. That's why he's making those comments. But I think so far the assertions you've made are very valid, especially on the rent and the rent part. Yeah.
True. Also, so with Ramit, understanding his philosophy and his perspective, it matters a lot to know where he's coming from, right? That's a good point, and it gets me thinking about like how it contrasts with Dave's philosophy. Dave is about peace. Get out of debt quick. Again, I may be repeating this, but I see how people are living lives that they can't afford. People are buying luxury cars that they can't afford. Their cars, their houses, they have very little margins. Like some people are making good money, and I've sat down with some people to draw budgets with them, and you could see that there's margin. A lot of money goes into discretionary spending, into enjoying life. Travel here, do this, buy this, shopping. Like there was somebody where the person gets stressed, they are shopping. And with Amazon, for example, it's just easy. Just one click and it's in your house. It's waiting for you. Somebody else, I asked the person, can you just unsubscribe from Amazon Prime? That way, when you know that it's going to take you a long time to get your gift, your package, or you have to pay for faster for shipping, maybe you buy less. That's a thing. You plan better, you plan ahead of time before you make purchases, right? But a lot of people are living on credit. And is it wrong for somebody to encourage you to live within your means, to live without borrowing money? I'm just curious, like what's wrong with it? Why would you think this person doesn't want your good? Especially if it's for consumer debt. If it's for a home, great. But people are doing stuff for expensive cars, over expensive houses, putting stuff on their credit card, shopping and all that. But anyway, let's hear Mimi's perspective on this. Mimi, what do you think?
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay. So I think that if you are really struggling in life, don't even talk about rich life. Your rich life should be to, come to a place where you have some stability. And so that is where Dave Ramsey's principles come in, because I've looked at a lot of comments, and a lot of people say that depending on what level they were in their financial life, Dave Ramsey's teachings came in very handy. So the rich life basically for me will be for people who are financially stable and are like they are okay, they are on top of their finances and can now allocate monies towards what they love responsibly. Otherwise, go Dave Ramsey's way. Dave Ramsey's way. And yes, the coffee and everything. So I look at my own example. I just watch people at work. People are spending as much as how much? Let's say if lunch is 30 cedis, breakfast is another maybe 20, 30 cedis. Okay, you are spending about 60 cedis or 50 cedis on food a day. Some of these people may take 3,000. Okay, and so if you multiply this 50 times 20, that's 1,000 cedis. That's just going towards food. If you are in such a situation, then yes, food and is small, but it does make a difference. So you really need to look at that space. So I don't agree with him entirely. I do agree that when you get to a certain level in your financing, you need to stop penny pinching and really ask yourself what you want out of life and responsibly plan and allocate finances towards those places while making sure that the basics of your personal finance, like your emergency fund, your retirement, those other things, building wealth, is covered. Otherwise, you have no right, let me put it, to be thinking about your rich life. In terms of the mortgage bit, yes, as you said, the longer you pay for the mortgage, the smaller amount you have to pay, but the more you have to pay in terms of interest. I think that, like anything long term, it comes with risk. What is there a risk of losing your job? What? And even the risk of, if you're in Ghana, you're taking a mortgage, currency, foreign exchange fluctuations is a risk. There are risks. So in some situations, you want to pay down the mortgage as soon as possible so that you reduce your exposure to that risk. So in that vein, I also agree with Dave. But as you said, personal finance is personal, and you can take it on a case by case, basis. Because maybe someone earns in dollars and it's a fixed rate mortgage, and the risks are almost non-existent. Then the advice may be different, because the difference between what you would pay if you're doing 30 years and what you pay if you're doing 15, that difference can go towards growing your wealth. Maybe when you look at the opportunity cost, it makes more sense to put that money towards more ventures that will grow your wealth. So in that vein, it depends on the situation that the individual finds himself in. But I think that Ramit should cut David Ramsey some slack. Just like pastors, there are different pastors for different purposes. So you, the congregation member, you have to assess yourself and see where are you in life, which one will be more of a blessing to you, and then go to that one or listen to that one. But I like what he said about at the end about listening to a wide range of advisors, because we all have different perspectives, but at least you would be able to pick what would benefit you when you listen to a wider range of people, rather than just listening to one who probably, if he makes a mistake, you may be likely to make the same mistake as well. So that's what I have to say to this whole thing.
Vibe. Okay, that's good. Different pastors for different people. That's interesting. Yeah, this particular point on affordability is something that I think I just need to drop it at this point, because I have way more points to say on this. I just feel like people have a wrong sense of what they can afford. I know people who are making well over $200,000 a year, and they are spending over $250,000 a year. It reminds me of the time we read this book, The Richest, The Millionaire Next Door, right? And also Dumb Things Smart People Do with Their Money. What people do wrong, the way people spend money. Just because you have a high income doesn't mean you should be spending on everything. You may have some financial goals. Because I have a high income, I want to make sure that when I'm retired, I can maintain close to that high income. So there's that. Moving on, just one more point that Ramit said against Dave before we just finish up with Kevin. We'll skip Robert Kiyosaki. we'll give him that slack. Anyway, so with Dave, he said a red flag for Dave is like, should you be listening to somebody about financial advice when that person's company has gone bankrupt? First off, it wasn't the company that went bankrupt. He personally went bankrupt. All right. But if you listen again, you listen long form, to this particular person, you realize that his lessons and how he set up this whole the Ramsey show and all that is because he got rich fast in his 20s and then went bankrupt because he had too much risk, too much leverage, too much borrowing. And it's his lessons that he's learned from going through that experience. That is what he's teaching. And he has followed that for 30 years now, and he's worth more than $200 million. It's different from somebody who is giving you advice, and meanwhile, the person is bankrupt right now. No, this is somebody who the foundation of his advice was, I suffered, I don't want other people to suffer. Let me teach them. I think it's just twisting words, and I'm quite disappointed because in the video, Ramit put up a screenshot of some article, and part of it reads, in fact, he learned some of his most valuable lessons through personal finance hardships in his 20s, including having to file bankruptcy. You are literally showing on screen something that vindicates the person, but you are twisting the words. It's just at this point, if it wasn't, I wasn't listening for to be able to come in, give speak on an educated basis, and also just because I have some respect for Amit. If it was anyone else, I'd have just shut it down by now, man. Just shut it down, because how do you do this? This is just so wrong, So the lesson to learn from this for me, I think, is if people are saying something, verify what they are saying. Yes, we can't verify everything, but sometimes when people make certain claims that are quite atrocious or are going to bank on it, you should make sure that you have the evidence to back it up, especially when the evidence is right on your screen. Right on your screen. And what person is saying one thing, yet what he is showing on his screen is saying another. Come on, man. So it's. Did anyone else catch that? Adam, did you catch that part?
Yeah, that's the same thing that came through my mind. Like, well, the fact that people I would actually rather take advice from somebody who has actually messed up and has actually been able to make a U-turn and is now living in the opposite direction. And now, the person has shown working. The person has made these mistakes before. And the person has said that, look, don't do these things because these are the things that will lead you into bankruptcy, or these are the things that will lead you to a place where you will not like to. So, it's even said that a smooth sea never made a skilled sailor. So obviously, anybody who is worth his salt or is giving certain advice if you've gone through some of these rough times in life, I think that you would rather be much more skilled to be able to give advice than somebody who has maybe really had it maybe rosy all through their lives, and maybe is just giving you theoretical steps to solve a problem. Yeah, so I mean, the fact that somebody has gone bankrupt before, yeah, and he didn't stay bankrupt. He's now a billionaire, and he's making so much money. And I think one thing that I kept getting from one of his sessions, I think I watched some snipers of video, is like since their first child or something, he's been the only one who's been working. And his wife basically does some work, but more of like family stuff and sitting on some all of that. I should tell you that this is somebody who knows what he's talking about. I mean, he's not just talking in the air, like out of nowhere. He really knows what he's saying. Yeah.
Anyway, Adam, let me just quickly correct something. You say he's now a billionaire. Did you say billion or million? B or M?
I thought it was millionaire. But it's actually below. Okay, my bad.
No, he's million. If you said million, you are correct.
Million. It's million. Okay.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
They said he who lives in glass
but
house.
Millionaire in dollars is quite okay. I mean, that's a very good place to be.
if I had $200 million like him, that would be in a very, very good place. So that one, dear. Anyway, yeah, very good points you've raised, Adam. Just quickly to touch on Kevin O'Leary. I don't want to. I wouldn't say we wouldn't get so much into Kevin O'Leary because unlike Dave, I haven't followed Kevin O'Leary so much. However, the stuff that Ramit said was pretty easy to just question. Kevin O'Leary, some of you may know him from Shark Tank. He's one of the sharks that people go and pitch ideas to and he buys. Kevin is worth, I looked it up online. He's worth about $400 million if you want to believe that. What is Ramit's problem with him? He said, don't listen to this man's advice. Why? Because this man is telling you not to buy coffee every day, $3-5 coffee every day. He's telling you not to spend money on a wedding. Meanwhile, he's sitting there wearing a $6,000 suit. There are so many things wrong with this, guys. So many things wrong with this. Somebody who is rich is encouraging people to be frugal, and you are saying he's a bad person. Don't listen to him on that basis. If there are other reasons, fine. Let us know those other reasons. And there was one, I'll get to that just to be fair, right? But if that is your reason, because he's wearing a $6,000 suit, or because he's a rich man, he's living a lavish life, why doesn't he want you also to enjoy some? See, in America, that is a very consumer-centric environment where you are bombarded with adverts all the time. People just want you to spend. Oh, forget about saving, spend. A rich man who owns many businesses or a stake in many businesses is telling you, don't spend so much. Rather, live on less, live within your means. Don't spend so much on a big wedding. Do something manageable. Because maybe, I don't know his entire story, but what if he's coming from a humble beginning? And he's saying this because when he was younger, when he was broke, that's what he did, and that's how he's got into a net worth of 400 million. Also, he's worth 400 million. He can afford a $6,000 suit. You want a big wedding? How much? What's your net worth? How much is your income? Can you afford that big wedding? Can you afford to go buy expensive coffee every day? Like, and I'm seeing these perspectives, and I like the example Mimi gave with the food. The alternative for somebody is to meal prep at home and take food from home to work, so that you save yourself 30-50 cedis a day over a month. That's, Mimi, I think you were saying it's close to 500, or is it 1,005 a month, right? You could save yourself some of that money and spend that money on something else that you need, or spend that money towards your retirement or towards some investments. There's always something that we want to use our money for. We just shouldn't be wasting money on things that we can cut down costs. I'll give myself pardon me, I had a bit of a break. Let me know if you can hear me. Drop a reaction. Okay, great. A friend taught me something and she helped me a lot. One of my guilty pleasures is ice cream or milkshake or cheesecake. And there was this place that makes some nice ice cream that they make some things inside. And I said, okay, I'll budget that. I'll go there once a week. And it was like $12. So in a month, $48. And this person was like, nah. Go to Walmart, buy ice cream. I bought ice cream, a tub of ice cream. Like, what? Like, it was $3 or $4. Then I bought Oreos because they put Oreos inside. That one too was like $4. Then I already have peanut butter because that one too is inside. Spent less than $10. That ice cream lasted me like 5 servings. $10 versus close to $60. You choose. You can do it on your own or pay someone else to do it. That's his point. Can you get some instant coffee or every day, or you want to go to Starbucks every day? That's money every day. Mimi was talking about, okay, fine, this is some guilty, some pleasure you have. No problem, but it's okay for everyone to have a guilty pleasure. But is your guilty pleasure distracting you from your goals? Can you delay gratification? That's really what we are talking about. We have to learn how to delay gratification. Not that you feel like doing something is a small amount, but some of these things, they add up. They really add up. So we need to ask ourselves, what's the motivation behind what somebody is saying? And if there's something that will help us, should you really hate the messenger? No, I don't think so. Yeah. Anyway, any particular thoughts on this part? Mimi, what do you think about the accusation against him? Oh, wait, sorry, Mimi, before you come, in all fairness, let me disclaim this. He did point out, again, I don't know Kevin's entire story, and I'm pretty sure, as an entrepreneur, he would have done some things that would be quite questionable. Like he was paid $15 million to endorse or to be a spokesperson for FTX. FTX went bankrupt last year. and the founder has been found guilty of some fraud charges and blah blah blah. So yeah, that one there. Why you go putting more for that thing inside? I understand, So yeah, that part is out there too. But and even here at Money Convos, we may get some things wrong every now and then, so we can correct each other. But if your reason for not listening to somebody is because he's blowing money, why doesn't he want you to blow? Hear from Adam. Adam, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, Elikem, I think I just side with you in basically how you were talking. What's the points you raised? That people, the fact that somebody has reached a certain level does not mean that if they are asking people to be frugal or asking people to like just cut certain things out of certain little luxuries out of their lives in the meantime as they are working towards reaching a certain point, it does not mean that they are being hypocritical or they don't want you to enjoy life like the way they are, because like you said, people's journeys are different. And one thing Mimi said earlier on is, and I agree with, is that look, if you are struggling, you are trying to get by, there's nothing like your rich life or certain things. So I mean, at that point in time, your priority should be to get your financial life or your finances in check and in order. So at that point, yes, you can have some little cheats here and there to mark some milestones and all that, but you should not delude yourself into thinking that you and the rich person are on the same level. So the things they do, you can do the same thing. You are on a journey. So if you think on the long haul, rather, you would be better off than just thinking about, oh, I just want to enjoy myself and then be fine. Meanwhile, you have a whole pile of debt sitting there, and it is because of this kind of thinking. In Ghana we say "Eka for didi." So people go borrowing spree and end up in all kinds of debt and will not pay back because it is in their mind that even if they are borrowed, they have to eat, and it's not helping matters. So if you are in a very bad spot or in a very bad place, your priority should be to get out of that bad place. Then you can start to think about, oh, okay, let me have these little pleasures of life. And then, so if people are in a certain position already, they have sort of arrived and they are advising other people to cut out certain things. I don't think it is out of place. Even if they've not seen that kind of difficulty before, I think I would rather listen and want to be in their position so that tomorrow I can also be affording the kind of luxuries they are affording now. Yeah.
Yep, that's true. Even if you're not at their level now, you can aspire to it. I like what you said about being delusional. Well, that's the key word here. A lot of people are delusional, man. It's a lot of people are delusional. I know it takes some sacrifice. You'll be giving up some things, but you also want to enjoy life some. But Charlie, Sarah was in here. I was gonna ask, well, Mimi is also here, so maybe you guys should do a video on investment friend about the Lulu. that'll be interesting. Or maybe you have one and I haven't gone to see it, so that'll be nice to know. Again, please, all these things that we are saying, to get even more perspective, go talk to investment friend on Instagram at investment_friend. All right, so let's wrap it up. Okay, we've spoken a lot. We've done what, an hour and a half. Yeah, this is on the longer end for us, but I felt like this thing was really important for us to get some sense of discernment. Who should we listen to? Even at Money Convos, you come listen. I'll say, get on our YouTube, listen consistently before you disagree with us. Listen to a few episodes, not a few snippets here and there. So you can do that on YouTube. Just search for Money Convos. It's usually the second item. Somebody did some Money Convos song. That comes first. We are right after that one. Then, wherever you listen to your podcast, just search for Money Convos. On social media, search for at Money Convos GH. All right. But I'll give Ramit his props. Okay. Like I said, if I was to score this, I'll score it 30%. Hey, listen, I like Ramit. I think most people in the personal finance space have good intentions and they are trying to do good things. But some things may come out of trying to generate shock value, and getting people enraged can bring a lot of views, and some people there's a whole economy about disagreeing with people, so maybe there's that. All right, but there are still some good things about this that I would encourage you to listen to. If nothing at all, you can listen to see how to critique things, and the video is there in the reply, so go listen. Also, he made some recommendations about people that you can follow. I've only heard about Money with Katie. Sarah has mentioned her before to me. There's Nick Majuli, that's at Dollars and Data. Then there's the Budget Nista. These are people you could go follow. So I think it's good. And Ramit also has his own show, which we love, and we've been doing reviews, and we are not going to stop because no one is perfect. And if the person did one thing wrong, we're not going to throw it away. We like the philosophy. The series is How to Get Rich on Netflix. So again, go watch it. We've done 3 episodes so far. We'll probably come up with the 4th one pretty soon to watch it, and hold nothing against him. This gave us some chance to learn some things. But yeah, I have a few concluding pieces of tips to give, but I would like, Adam, do you want to give any final tips before I give my list?
Yeah, so Elikem, I think the theme that has been running through from when we started up to now is basically the fact that personal finance is personal. I mean, that's one of the first thing I would say. And so when listening to advice about personal advice, even from us, I mean, we don't necessarily give financial advice like that. We just are giving general takes on finance because we are not supposed to be. I mean, this is not a finance sort of thing.
We are not licensed.
We are not licensed, exactly. We are only giving takes and ideas, sharing experiences and what we have read and everything. If for your personal finance advice, please go see your licensed financial advisor to take those decisions with, or to take that advice from. So generally, when you are listening to things like that, just have it in the backdrop that with the backdrop that you should situate it within the context in which you are. And then, I mean, generally speaking, like for us who are not really trying to sell a product to anybody, one thing you can also always be looking on the lookout for, which, like you said in the beginning, is that, is this person just trying to shove a product down my throat, or is this person trying to sell a service to me? So these are things you should be looking out for when you are seeking advice, or you are listening to advice, or you are watching personal advice, personal finance shows and what have you. Okay, so it's just try and sift through the information. And there's so much out there. I don't know. I'm not on TikTok, but at least I've heard so many people talk about so many things that are people showing all kinds of short videos and things and saying all kinds of things. But we should just be informed. I think one of the best ways is that personally yourself take up, money is such an important tool in our lives for us to outsource it to other people, in that regard. Take charge of your own journey. Try and learn, try and get information yourself. And then with the backdrop of all that information that you are gathering, you will be able to sift through advice that is coming and know what is just really just out there, that is, people are just saying, I mean, this one is just somebody's opinion or something, or this is something I think I can work with, or this is something that I should throw or shelf, or this is something that might be applicable to my life, but not yet. Maybe I have to do some few adjustments, and then I can be able to hold on to this. So personally, I think we should all take that conscious effort to develop ourselves, get financially literate. Yes, that is what I think, that's the word that had escaped me. Be financially literate, so that when you are hearing any advice out there, or you are following any show or watching anything, you'll be able to sift through it and see what is the chaff and what is really important for you to be able to work with. Yeah.
Very good point, Adam. Let's educate ourselves. You don't have to become a guru. You don't have to get some license or some professional exams. No, just start. It's there's some behavior to it. Just start doing certain things consistently and you'll be fine. Okay, you'll be fine. Great. For me, we missed Mimi, she dropped off, but I just quick summary. Ask questions. Think through what people are saying. Don't take things just at face value. If the person is saying 1 + 1 is equal to 4, they may say it eloquently, passionately, but really 1 + 1 equals to 4 doesn't add up, right? So just encourage people to show working. Why do you say this? Why do you say that? What if this? What if that? If somebody can't explain something to you, even the most complex thing, to a point where you can understand it at a lay level, be skeptical. And depending on how important it is to you, be skeptical until you've gotten to a point where you, because it's important, you do all the research to understand it. Okay, be skeptical. Also, don't swear allegiance to any particular personality or philosophy.
Point about whether you should withdraw 4% or 8% annually after retirement. Either side is right depending on the data you look at. There's no guarantee about the future, but they base their arguments on historic S&P 500 performance. Dave Ramsey may be looking at more recent times since 1975. Paul Ramitseti and the others argue for the more conservative 4% based on a longer period from 1928 till now. I encourage people to check out the model I used to assess the argument and send us your comments. Correct us if we missed something or made a mistake. We've uploaded the file to our website. That's moneyconvos.com.
The data says 4% has a way better success rate than 8% withdrawal rate. So that one, he wasn't on that point. People go wrong every now and then. The thing that they went wrong, was it catastrophic? Also, do they go wrong so often, or they are mostly right? So that's something that you need to be careful about. Don't be blind. Don't blindly follow somebody permanently. Don't swear, and not just people, don't swear allegiance to philosophies. One person told me, a classmate told me this 2 weeks ago. He's like, bro, if your philosophy, if you can't tell me that your philosophy is right 100% of the time, every time, on every issue. Nothing is that perfect. Sometimes you have to apply case by case, right? So again, let's not swear allegiance to some of these things. So as a Christian, yes, swear allegiance to God. There's that one too. But yeah, anyway. And finally, I would say I encourage people to listen to long form. Read books, like consume long form media. Read books, read articles. Let's go beyond the 30-second snippets. Let's go beyond the picture. Let's go beyond the 240 character. I hope I'm getting it right. I hope it's 240 and not 140 character. Go beyond the short tweets. Go beyond the funny picture. Go beyond the 30-second video. Go beyond short form. Go beyond 5 minutes. Go beyond 10 minutes. Consume content 30 minutes, an hour. And it's something that we struggle with at Money Convos. We used to talk for like 2 hours. People say it's too long. And then once we were putting it on the podcast, we don't mind. People can hop in, hop off whenever they want, right? But then we still want to make it something bite-sized that people can listen to, because they go on a podcast or on YouTube and it's 1 hour long. If it were 30 minutes, they would have watched. But because it's 1 hour, they don't watch. Even though they can watch 30 minutes right now and come back 30 minutes later. But yeah, we'll try to get some short form out there, and we are trying to work on it. But in the meantime, in fact, even that will be no substitute for the long form, the context. Because you could see at various points in this conversation, I was going on for more than 5 minutes, right? Listen to get full context. See consistency, see inconsistency, and that comes with more content. Greater depth comes with consuming more content. So I encourage you, go with long form over short form as much as possible, and know what topics each person is good for. But yeah, final word is we love Ramit. We think he's done a lot of good in the world. These few points that he brought up, we disagree. Some he was right on, some he wasn't. But we'll definitely come back with episode 4 of his show on Netflix. That's How to Get Rich. So yeah, thank you all for listening to us. It was way longer than usual, but I hope it was totally worth it. And we've given you some ways to know who to listen to. We want you to be more discerning, know when people are right, when people are wrong. And I wish you have some more discernment throughout the rest of this week into the weekend until we meet again next week. wow, I've gotten the topic we're going to talk about. I don't have the calendar in front of me, but it will be an interesting one. I know that the next two episodes of Money Convos will be really fun. There's a nice pipeline ahead for us, so it will be a good conversation. Thank you all very much. Enjoy the rest of your day, your night, and the week. Goodbye.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to our thoughts. I hope you learned a thing or two and start practicing. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Clubhouse, and Facebook. And subscribe to our YouTube and podcast. Do tell a friend about Money Convos so we all become wealthy together. Talk to you soon. Bye.